Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to cut through the noise of fragmented business information and turn it into clear, usable insights.
Yeah, and if you're running any kind of organization today, you definitely know the struggle.
Oh, absolutely. That constant friction, right? Scattered employee files everywhere, payroll calculations that feel, well, complex and maybe a bit risky.
And that recruitment black hole, good candidates just vanishing. It holds companies back from what they really want to be doing, like growing the business.
Exactly. It's more than just annoying friction. You called it a strategic liability before we started. Fragmented systems mean HR is like constantly playing catch up.
Stuck in manual tasks. They can't easily provide that strategic data the business needs. You need that full picture, that 360-degree view, but crucially, you also need control over it.
Which brings us to our mission for this deep dive. We've got the source material here detailing Hirely HRMS.
Right, a web-based human resource management system. It's pretty comprehensive.
Our goal is to really unpack its integrated modules, see how they cover that whole employee journey, from the very first application right through to retirement.
And the first thing that jumps out is the competitive angle. Hirely positions itself as this all-in-one platform.
Right.
But its main selling points hit on some major pain points in the industry. First off, it's built to be self-hosted.
Okay, that's significant. Self-hosted means the company keeps all that employee data in-house, right? Full ownership.
Exactly, complete control. Moving that sensitive information off, say, a public cloud and onto their own servers.
But that immediately brings up a question, doesn't it? Self-hosting sounds great for control, but what about the workload? Maintenance, security updates, server management. Is that realistic for maybe a medium-sized business without a huge IT department?
That's a fair point. It's definitely a trade-off you need to weigh up. The source material suggests it comes as a sort of ready-to-deploy package, which cuts down the initial setup hassle.
So the client takes on the ongoing maintenance.
Right. In exchange for that total control, and this is the second big differentiator, avoiding recurring subscription fees.
Okay. So that initial price, which the material says, is currently down from $750 to $580. That's it, the total software cost.
Pretty much, for the license itself. That's a strong argument for companies watching their budgets, especially startups trying to dodge those big monthly SaaS bills that climb as you hire more people.
Makes sense. So the big picture here is Hirely aiming to be that single unified solution focused on accuracy, speed, and transparency.
Yeah, across its four main pillars, basically.
Yeah.
Recruitment, core HR, payroll, and performance.
And we'll see as we dig in that it's designed to be modular. Each part is specialized, but they're all deeply connected.
Right.
So let's start at the very beginning, finding and bringing in new talent.
Okay, let's unpack this first piece. The Integrated Applicant Tracking System, the ATS. This is really the company's shop window for potential hires, isn't it?
Absolutely. And Hirely seems focused on making that first impression a good one, professional and transparent.
How does it do that? Well, it starts with allowing the company to set up and host its own public careers portal. It's not just a static jobs list, it's dynamic, pulling the open positions right from the system.
So it strengthens the employer brand from the get-go.
And candidates apply through a dedicated, secure interface.
And I see the system applies rules right away for data quality.
Yeah, things like checking the resume file, type only, PDF, DOC, DOCX allowed, and putting a size limit. Looks like 5 megabytes here. Standard stuff, but important.
Keeps the recruiters from getting bogged down with weird files or huge uploads.
Exactly. And here's something that really stands out for the candidate experience: transparency.
Okay.
Once they apply, they get their own login, their own portal. This is huge for cutting down on that application black hole feeling.
So instead of emailing HR asking what's happening, they can just log in.
Precisely. They log in and see a graphical workflow tracker. It shows them exactly where they are in the process. Applied, screening, interview, offer extended, whatever stages the company defines.
That's a big plus.
Yeah.
Keeps everyone informed.
And it also helps the company. The application process guides the candidate to build out a structured online profile.
Covering things like work history, skills, education.
Right. All in standardized fields.
Which is gold dust for the recruiter, I imagine. Much easier to filter and compare than just reading through hundreds of different resume formats.
Definitely. Which brings us to the recruiter's side of things, their command center.
What does that look like?
Well, first, centralized candidate management. All applications, no matter how they came in, end up in one place. No more losing track of people in email threads or shared folders.
Makes sense. And the material mentions visual management.
Yeah, the application pipeline view. It uses a Kanban board layout, columns for each stage.
Right.
Recruiters can just drag and drop candidates from one stage to the next.
Like Trello, but for applicants.
Pretty much. It's visual, intuitive, and helps spot bottlenecks instantly. Like if the screening column is suddenly overloaded.
Okay, but you need some controls there, right?
Yeah.
You can't just drag anyone anywhere.
Good point. The system enforces a key rule. Once a candidate's status hits a final stage, like hired or rejected, that card on the Kanban board gets locked.
Ah, so no changing history after the decision's made. Ensures an audit trail.
Exactly. And that focus on structure carries over into evaluations.
Oh, sir.
Recruiters don't just rely on gut feeling. They define specific evaluation criteria beforehand, things like technical skills or teamwork.
And score candidates against those during interviews.
Helps make the decision process more objective, less subjective bias.
What about scheduling those interviews? Is that handled in the system?
Yep, integrated scheduling tools. There's a list view, but also a visual calendar view. Teams can see who's interviewing whom, when, and track the status. Scheduled, done, canceled, often using color codes.
Okay, so the recruiter manages the whole process, makes a decision, then what? How does the candidate get into the main HR system?
This is that crucial handover point, seamless onboarding. When the recruiter marks a candidate as hired, their profile moves to a specific page, like a waiting room, bridging recruitment, and core HR.
And the onboarding itself?
It's semi-automated. There's an onboard button. One click triggers a whole sequence of actions.
What happens in that sequence?
Okay, the system converts the candidate profile into an official employee record. It creates their first employment contract based on the offer details. And crucially, it generates their user account so they can log into the system.
All in one go. That sounds efficient.
Very. And it's designed as a transaction, meaning if any part fails, the whole process rolls back so you don't end up with half-created records. Data integrity is maintained.
Good. And the new user account? What are the defaults?
The default role is set to employee, status is active, but the source material notes the initial default password is set to admin123.
Wait, seriously? Admin123, that sounds, well, incredibly risky, even if it's temporary.
It does. Super efficient for getting things set up quickly, but yeah, a potential security hole right out of the gate.
Does the system force an immediate password change on that first login? Because it absolutely should.
That's exactly the kind of safeguard you'd expect and, frankly, need, especially in a self-hosted system where the company owns the security responsibility. While the automation is great for speed, you'd have to assume a mandatory password reset is a non-negotiable configuration step.
Yeah, otherwise that efficiency creates a major vulnerability. It really highlights that even with a powerful system, internal security practices are critical.
Couldn't agree more. But assuming that's handled, the core benefit is clear. The new hire is in the system, ready to go, can access their dashboard, clock in potentially almost immediately. It saves HR days of manual data entry.
Okay, so the talent is sourced and onboarded. Let's move into the heart of the system.
Right, so the ATS successfully feeds the new hire's data straight into the core HR module. And this is really where the organization builds and maintains that single source of truth for all employee information.
The 360-degree digital file, as the source calls it, sounds like it pulls a lot of information together.
It does. The material says it consolidates data from at least 10 different database tables, all presented in one central employee profile.
So what kind of information are we talking about?
Everything, really. Personal details, contact info, bank details for payroll, information about dependents, emergency contacts, even health details if relevant and permitted.
All accessible in one place.
Yeah, typically through a tab interface like tabs for personal details, contracts, payroll history, attendance. No more hunting through different spreadsheets or filing cabinets.
That alone sounds like a huge time saver for HR.
Definitely. But core HR isn't just about the individual. It's also about defining the company's structure.
Okay, how does Hirely handle that?
Well, first, you can manage departments hierarchically. So you can set up parent departments, child departments, assign managers to oversee specific units. Standard stuff, but essential.
And then job roles.
That's handled through job structure management. This is where you define the standard job titles like software engineer or marketing manager.
And levels within those titles.
Exactly. Roles or levels like junior, senior, lead, and also work types, full-time, part-time, intern, contractor, etc. These are the basic building blocks.
But the source material mentions something called organizational positions. How is that different from a job title?
This is a key structural element. A position combines those building blocks. Department plus job title plus role level. So you might have the job title software engineer, but a position would be something specific like technology department senior software engineer.
Why is that distinction important?
It's crucial for accurate workforce planning and budget control. A position often has a unique ID, maybe headcount approval, and budget attached to it. When you hire someone or create a contract, you assign them to a specific position, not just a generic job title. It ensures you know exactly which structural slot is filled.
Got it. So it prevents accidentally having, say, two people assigned to the exact same budgeted role unless intended.
Precisely. And speaking of assigning people, that brings us to contract management.
Which is vital for legal reasons, obviously, but also ties into payroll setup, right?
Absolutely. And the system has a neat automated check built in here. When the contract management page loads, it actively scans all the contract end dates, and it automatically flags any contract as expired if that date has passed.
Oh, that's useful. Proactive compliance. Prevents someone accidentally staying on the payroll after their contract ended without HR noticing immediately.
Exactly. It's about catching those things automatically. And that kind of proactive status update is also seen in asset management.
Okay, so tracking company, property, laptops, phones, cars. Everything gets logged with serial numbers, value, purchase date, all the details.
And the automation part.
Here's a good example. When HR assigns an asset, say a laptop, to an employee through this system interface, two things happen instantly and automatically. First, the status of that laptop in the main asset inventory changes from available to in use. Second, the employee's record is updated to show they are the current holder.
And presumably, the reverse happens when the employee returns it. Exactly. Process the return in the system, and the asset status flips back to available, ready for reissue.
The value there seems pretty clear. Real-time inventory, clear accountability.
Yeah.
No more guessing who has what laptop.
Right. Huge for audits, loss prevention, just basic management. It removes the reliance on manual spreadsheet updates, which are always lagging or inaccurate.
Okay, that covers structure, contracts, assets. What about empowering the employees themselves?
Yes. The Employee Self-Service Portal, or ESS. This is often a major selling point for HRMS systems because it directly reduces HR's admin workload.
How does it work entirely?
It gives employees 247 access to manage their own basic information. They can log in, update their contact details or emergency contacts.
View their contract history, check their remaining vacation days.
Exactly. Personalized stats like leave balance, maybe upcoming training they're enrolled in, all visible on their dashboard.
And submitting requests, like time off.
Yes, there's usually a dynamic form or modal window. They can submit various requests, leave, training enrollment, maybe even a request for a salary advance, depending on company policy.
And those requests get routed automatically.
Directly to their designated manager for approval within the system. It takes paper forms and endless email chains out of the equation for routine requests.
The strategic benefit seems obvious. HR spends less time on basic admin and more time on, well, strategic HR.
That's the goal. Shift the transactional stuff to the system and the employee, freeing up HR for higher value work.
Okay, now we're getting into what sounds like the really complex part, the payroll module. The source material suggests this isn't just a simple calculator.
No, definitely not. It's described as a dynamic rules-based engine, and it all starts with getting the time and attendance data right automatically.
Makes sense. Garbage in, garbage out, especially with payroll.
Precisely. So Hirely allows defining work shifts in detail start times, end times, break durations, even grace periods for clocking in.
And it can handle tricky scenarios, like night shifts crossing midnight.
Yeah, the documentation highlights that the calculation logic is built to handle those correctly, ensuring things like overtime are calculated accurately, even when a shift spans 2 calendar days.
That's crucial. And how does it integrate with leave requests?
This is a key integration point for data integrity. When a manager approves a leave request, say for a sick day, the system automatically creates a corresponding leave record in the employee's attendance data for that day.
Okay, and the crucial part mentioned is that the system-generated record
cannot be manually deleted from the attendance screen.
So it's tamper-proof. Ensures the attendance data accurately reflects proved time off, prevents someone trying to manually erase an absence after the fact.
Exactly. It locks down that connection between approved leave and the payroll input data.
Okay, so the system collects this clean attendance, data hours, worked, overtime, undertime, absences, unpaid leave. What happens next?
It feeds into the calculation engine, and this is where the secret sauce comes in, the payroll rule engine.
Right, tell us about that.
First, you define all the payroll items, every possible earning, deduction, allowance, bonus, etc.
And for each item,
You specify key attributes. Is it an earning or deduction? Is it taxable? And critically, how is it calculated?
what are the calculation options?
The main ones seem to be static, meaning a fixed amount, usually set in the employee's contract, then rule-based, calculated dynamically based on rules, and system for things like statutory deductions where the rules might be baked in or updated based on regulations, often linked to the fiscal year.
Okay, so static is like base salary, but rule-based is where the real flexibility comes in.
That's the core of it. The dynamic rule engine lets managers define complex, conditional rules using an if-then structure, but without needing to code.
Like a visual rule builder?
Sort of, yeah. You build logic based on employee attributes.
Give us an example. What kind of conditions can you use in the IF part?
It sounds incredibly flexible. You could base conditions on almost anything in the employee record, their department, their job title, years of service, marital status, number of dependents.
Wow, okay.
Or, and this is really interesting, even their latest performance review score.
Seriously. So you could build a rule like, if employee's performance score is 5, outstanding then.
Then calculate a bonus payment equal to, say, 10% of their base salary, or a fixed amount.
That directly links pay to performance automatically. That's quite powerful.
It's strategic automation, absolutely, turning company policy or compensation strategy directly into executable logic.
But this highlights something the source mentions, a crucial data dependency.
Yes, a very important one. For those rule-based calculations to work, especially if they're based on a percentage of something.
Like 10% of base salary.
Right. They rely on the underlying static items, like base salary, being correctly defined and stored in the employee's contract within the core HR module.
So if someone forgets to enter the base salary in the contract,
Then the rule engine might fail when it tries to calculate that 10% bonus. It doesn't have the base number to work from. The calculation could result in 0 or throw an error during the payroll run for that employee.
so the accuracy of that core HR contract data is absolutely fundamental to the entire payroll process working correctly.
Couldn't be more critical. Data integrity upstream is vital.
Okay, so the rules are set up, the data is hopefully clean. How does the system actually handle running payroll, especially for larger companies? 1,000 employees, complex rules. That sounds computationally intensive.
It is. And this is where Hirely employs a smart technical approach, mentioned in the material, asynchronous batch processing.
What does that mean in simple terms?
It means instead of trying to calculate everyone's pay in one single massive server request, which could easily time out or crash,
Yeah.
the system breaks the job down into smaller, manageable chunks or batches. It might process, say, 5 or 10 employees at a time, then move to the next batch, then the next.
Then the person running payroll sees this happening.
Usually, yeah, they'd see a live progress bar showing how far along the calculation is.
The benefit being?
Stability and reliability. It prevents the server from getting overwhelmed, ensures the payroll run completes successfully even with thousands of employees, and makes the whole process more robust, especially when deadlines are tight.
Makes sense. And the output, what does the system generate?
The standard essential outputs, a detailed payroll history for auditing, the full calculation details for each employee in that run, and of course, a printable payslip.
And the payslip includes details from attendance.
Yes, the source mentions it summarizes key monthly attendance figures right on the payslip, like total overtime hours, number of absence days, any unpaid leave taken, adds transparency for the employee.
Right. Connecting the time worked directly to the pay received. Seems thorough.
Yeah, and if you zoom out a bit, you see how these pieces connect. The payroll relies on core HR data, performance scores could influence payroll. It's all designed, it seems, not just to track things, but to use that data to drive growth and improvement.
And linking training needs back to performance gaps, perhaps.
Exactly. But underpinning all of this, especially with sensitive data like performance and pay, has to be robust security.
Let's touch on performance management first. Like payroll, it needs structure, to be fair, right?
Definitely. Hirely starts by letting you define the core components. The competencies you want to measure, skills, behaviors, whatever is important to the company.
And how you measure them.
Right, through standardized rating levels. Crucially, these levels should have clear definitions, unique score values like 1 to 5, and maybe even color coding, red for needs improvement, green for outstanding. It pushes towards objectivity.
And how does a manager actually run a review cycle?
They manage specific review periods, maybe annual, semi-annual. Then there's an interface to add employees to that cycle, often allowing filtering by department or job title to easily select the right group.
Takes the guesswork out of who needs reviewing when.
And the system seems to support different types of feedback gathering.
Not just the manager's opinion.
No, it mentions support for manager reviews, employee self-appraisals, and importantly, 360-degree feedback from peers or direct reports, getting that broader perspective.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, connecting performance to development. Let's look at training.
Right. The goal here is managing the learning process efficiently. You've got course management defining courses, content, scheduling, costs.
Assigning trainers.
Yeah.
Internal or external?
Yep, trainer management is mentioned too. But a key efficiency seems to be in registration.
How so?
The source highlights an advanced interface for training registration, multi-select, searchable, maybe using something like choices.js tech. This allows HR or managers to bulk register groups of employees quickly and accurately.
Instead of adding them one by one.
Exactly. Saves a lot of admin time. Plus, there's a visual training calendar giving everyone an overview of what's scheduled when.
Okay, performance and training handled. Now, let's circle back to that critical foundation, security and audit, especially vital if you're self-hosting this.
Couldn't be more important. The first layer is role-based access control, RBAC, defining roles like HR manager, employee, finance admin, and assigning very specific permissions to each role.
Controlling who can see what and who can do what on every screen.
Precisely. And there's a specific technical detail mentioned about managing these permissions.
What's that?
It relates to self-editing. If a user, say a manager, somehow tries to change their own role or permissions,
Maybe trying to give themselves more access.
potentially, the system is designed to instantly clear their current session cache when that happens.
Why is that significant?
It forces the system to immediately reevaluate their permissions based on the change. It prevents them from temporarily operating with elevated rights before the change fully takes effect. It's a small but important security mechanism against privilege escalation.
Clever. And beyond access control, what about tracking changes?
That's where the audit log comes in. This is described as the ultimate security and transparency feature.
What does it track?
Pretty much every significant action, creating new records, updating existing ones, deleting records. It logs who did it, when they did it, timestamp, what table they changed, and the specific ID of the record affected.
Standard audit trail stuff.
Yes, but crucially, the source material also specifies it tracks the user's IP address for each action.
Ah, okay. Why is tracking the IP address strategically important? Why add that layer?
It's vital for forensics and accountability. If there is a data breach, unauthorized change, or even just a dispute about who did what, the IP address can help pinpoint the origin of the action, not just who, which relies on the user's login, but where, the network or location they logged in from. It adds a layer of verifiable evidence.
Makes sense, especially for compliance or if legal issues arise.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the system allows setting a retention period for these logs, say keeping them for 10 days, 30 days, whatever the policy requires, to manage storage space while keeping recent history accessible.
Okay, and finally pulling alerts from all these modules together.
There's a central notifications system, kind of like an internal inbox. It aggregates key alerts from across paper. Hirely, a contract nearing expiry, a payslip being issued, a leave request needing approval, keeps important events from falling through the cracks.
Okay, so we've seen how Hirely manages recruitment, core data, payroll, performance, training, and security. What does all this integrated data enable? How does it help leaders make better decisions?
That's where the report center comes in. This is positioned as the hub for transforming all that operational data into strategic insight.
Moving HR from just processing transactions to analyzing trends.
Exactly. And access is, naturally, controlled by those RBAC permissions we talked about. Managers only see the reports and data relevant to their role and scope.
What kinds of reports are highlighted?
There are several focused on proactive management and organizational health. For example, an upcoming events report.
What does that show?
Things like employee birthdays, but more strategically. Contracts that are set to expire within the next, say, 7 days. Allows HR to get ahead of renewals or transition planning.
That's useful.
Yeah.
What about analyzing the recruitment process itself?
There are specific ATS analysis reports mentioned. A recruitment funnel report, which would show conversion rates, how many applicants move from screening to interview to offer, etc. Helps identify where the process might be weak.
And time to hire.
Yeah, a time to hire report. The sample data mentioned an average of 6.0 days. Having that concrete metric allows the organization to benchmark and try to improve recruitment speed and efficiency.
Okay, shifting to the financial side, payroll costs.
A payroll cost by department report. This breaks down the total payroll spend, gross pay, deductions, net pay, and shows the totals and percentage contribution for each department.
So finance or department heads can easily compare actual spend against their budgets.
Precisely. It gives that granular view needed for proper financial control beyond just a single company-wide salary total.
What about measuring how well the company is keeping its people? Retention.
Yes, crucial reports for retention health. An employee turnover report showing the annual turnover rate plus the number of hires versus the number of leavers in a period.
Key indicators for workforce stability.
Yeah,
Lets you see if you have a retention problem, maybe in specific areas.
exactly. It provides the data needed to ask why people might be leaving and address the root causes.
Does it track internal movement too? Promotions? Transfers?
It seems so. An employee job history report is mentioned, which tracks all those internal career moves, presumably pulling data directly from changes logged in the contract management module.
Provides a view of internal mobility and career paths.
Right. And finally, tying back to development, there's a training effectiveness report.
How does that measure effectiveness? Just attendance.
It sounds more sophisticated than that. It suggests analyzing program success based on participant feedback scores, but also looking at cost metrics, cost per participant, cost per training hour, and comparing that against the overall training budget.
So trying to measure the ROI of training spend.
Essentially, yes. Moving training from being just a cost center to being a measurable investment aligned with business needs.
Okay, it definitely sounds like the reporting aims to provide actionable insights across the board, not just data dumps. Tag outro. All right, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into Hirely HRMS. Let's quickly recap the main takeaways for you, the listener.
I think the key thing is the integration. Hirely seems powerful because it genuinely tries to merge the hard numbers, the financial complexity of payroll driven by that rules engine, and tied to accurate attendance data with the softer side of HR recruitment performance training.
And it anchors all of that in a single comprehensive employee profile.
Which is self-hosted, giving the organization full data ownership.
Mm-hmm.
That, combined with the lack of recurring subscription fees and the built-in automations like the batch processing for payroll or the asset tracking sync.
Those are the core differentiators. It makes it a potentially very compelling package, especially for organizations, maybe SMEs or startups, that really prioritize data control and predictable costs.
Yeah.
And that depth of integration really stands out. We talked about how a payroll rule could, theoretically, pull an employee's latest performance score directly into calculating their bonus or pay rise.
Mm-hmm. And that capability, while powerful, raises a really important question for you to think about as you look at any modern integrated HR system.
Which is?
In this kind of totally digitized HR environment where potentially every data point about an employee performance, attendance, skills, maybe even dependence is interconnected and can be used in automated rules. How much should that sensitive data be allowed to dynamically influence every other aspect of their employment relationship?
The technology enables it, the automation is there.
But the responsibility lies in setting up those rules ethically and transparently. Where do you draw the line?
That ability to directly link measurable performance to compensation automatically. It feels like the direction strategic HR is heading, but it clearly requires very careful thought, clear company policies, and strong ethical governance. Food for thought indeed. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the mechanics of modern integrated HR management.